thanks for having me on, guys. This is awesome. Love gear, love talking all about it. So yeah, this is going to be really fun.
I'm so excited. You guys are, everybody, please share this out. Hit that like button. Follow these guys.
You guys have created a phenomenal space with Dealcasters Live. I am so excited to be here.
How's it going?
Who was talking to you, Siri? I said the A lady. Ooh, Siri's getting frosty because I'm talking to the A people over here. And she's like,
should I eat this?
Yes. Because people really want that kind of conversation and relationship.
Yeah, and your show won't be boring.
Right.
Oh my God, I love you guys. Chris, you're just amazing. Jim, so are you. You guys are the best hosts ever, I think.
Just stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, car buying public of Amazon, welcome back once again to Dealcasters Live. My name is Chris Stone. I'm a cast ahead at castahead.net, and the man making me look invisible on the left side of your screen, doing marketing the Marine Corps way, Mr. Jim Fuse. Semper Fi, my friend. How are you?
Hoorah. Good to see you, my friend. And we had quite the assignment this past week. We had to read because reading is fundamental, but what a great book. Excited to talk about that with two of the authors here in a little bit. Two amazing ladies, Kelly Noble Mirabella and Kendra Losee. So this is going to be fun. And but Chris, how's your week been going so far?
It's going insane right now because we are ramping up for VidFest, which is happening at the end of the month. And Jim, I'm getting very few hours of sleep because I'm thinking about all of the great people that we get to share the stage with in Orlando. And so let me just get this up here. Well, look, first of all, before we talk about VidFest, let me get a little housekeeping out of the way. So for those of you who are watching us on any of the other tubes, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, whatever else we could cram in here, that's cool if you want to hang out there. But I promise you, after you end up watching this show with our special guests and this amazing book that they've been a part of here, you're going to want to get it. And so what better place to be than here on Amazon, watching video live on Amazon. And Jim, we meet people every day that have yet to go on Amazon and see live video. So what better way to do it than to do it now? And we made it easy for you. All you got to do is open a browser and type in dealcasters.live. And when you do that, that's going to send you right smack dab here. Well, not here. I mean, you won't be on the screen, but you'll be able to hang out with us and chat with us because we love hanging out and doing that. And we've already got some followers. Thank you for the follower or farmtographer on Amazon. Thank you for the follow. I bet Farmtographer takes pictures of animals at the farm. What do you think, Jim? I don't know. Farmtographer, let us know.
It's a pretty good guess.
It's really hard to say Farmtographer for me anyway. So I'm not going to say Farmtographer anymore. Farmtographer. So go to dealcasters.live, jump in here, and we're here on Amazon with people who take pictures of farm animals. So VidFest, I was talking about VidFest, Jim. We're going to run this. We got a 20% deal on VidFest tickets if you use the code Amazon. So if you head to vidfest.dealcasters.live, you're going to be able to join us in Orlando at VidFest. We're stoked all day on Friday, Jim. We are among 18 other people speaking on stage about Amazon and Amazon, the influencer program going live on Amazon, Amazon shoppable video, and just some tremendous people. We've had a late addition to the stage. We have Persia, who's been added to this list as well. So we're excited to have her there as well. But Jeff C., Monty Weaver, Kirk Nugent, Justin Moore, Denise Lipka, Amy, Joe, and Jamie Honey, just some really great Amazon influencers. And we are stoked to be able to do that. So if you want tickets, still time to join us at the Hilton in Orlando. It's Podfest and VidFest together, and there's going to be thousands upon thousands of people that are going to be there learning about podcasting, video. There's going to be all kinds of classes that are going to be held. They're going to be teaching you how to use Canva. But then there's also like Roberto Blake is speaking. There's just a ton of great speakers. So if you want to join us at VidFest, please do. That's the link down below. And Jim, that is our housekeeping. And so I think we're ready when you are to do this thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about our guests. Two amazing women. In fact, I could see where, Kelly Noble Mirabella is a recent new Amazon influencer. So who knows? Maybe she'll be on the stage with us next year because she's an amazing speaker. She's the queen of the chatbots. And here's a little fun fact for those of you, and I hope I don't embarrass her, but I say this all the time because it's true. So Kelly and I met at Social Media Marketing World, I want to say 2018. And that's when this whole like live streaming thing was starting to become big. And so we met actually at the end of the conference, there was like this beer tour. So, we met over beers, and she invited me to her Facebook group where she had a live challenge to get live on Facebook. Well, that led to the Tim and Jim show. That led to me, being consistent. So I really give her, a lot of the responsibility for me standing here in front of you today.
There's probably no Dealcasters if not for Kelly Noble Mirabella.
That is true.
Is that a stretch? Is that a leap or no? Okay.
I don't think it's a leap. I don't think it's a leap.
All right.
But Kelly is one of the best. She's, always thinking about things in social. And so it's even appropriate, right, that her and Kendra worked on this book together. And so Kelly she lives closer to us now. She moved from California to Texas. So she's, maybe we can get her to Atlanta one of these days. We'll see. And then Kendra and I got to work together as part of the connections crew at Social Media Marketing World. And let me tell you, Kendra is also an amazing individual. She runs her company is Moda Marketing. She's working in the cannabis field, which you're like, wow. So she's figuring out all the ways that you can legally advertise for cannabis. She's an adjunct professor as well. So she teaches people, in college about digital marketing. Just an amazing person. I'm so glad that both of these women, I consider them friends. I hope they feel the same way. But you know what, Chris? People are probably tired of hearing about us. So let's welcome the two amazing authors of this great book, Digital Etiquette for Dummies, Kelly Noble Mirabella and Kendra Losee.
All right.
Hi.
Yay.
That's quite the intro.
I know. I love the little screen thing. It looked like we were actually standing next to each other.
I know. We stand like that all the time. When we're
You can do that right now virtually.
If
you guys want to do that, you can,
Yeah, if you lean in.
Like contained here by the box.
I'm sorry. Is it not good etiquette for a host to ask a guest to do something they weren't prepared to do all of a sudden?
I think it depends on the guest. But
I think on page 40. No,
like, which section was that? I wrote that section. You would think I would know.
Yeah. So this is this the first book for both of you?
It is. It's my first published book. Yeah.
It's my first published book as well.
Wow. So let's start with you, Kelly. What kind of drove you to get involved in this project?
Oh, her name is Evie, and she is a force. So I've been wanting to write a book for like 14 years, and I've had book coaches. I've written chapters. I have chapters upon chapters. I have gone to writing classes, and I just never got over the hump of, actually publishing. And then my girl, Evie Hyman, came and was like, hey, you guys want to write a book with me? And we're all Okay, yeah. And so she brought us into the fold, and she ended up going on to a different project, but we were able to hang on to the project, and we were signed on with Wiley Publishing with the Dummies crew, and we're able to write this fantastic book. And it was hyper speed. Like, I guess usually it takes like a year to write a book. I think we did it, 4 months? It was insane how fast we wrote this book. So, and speaking of words, like, this was my life for 4 months. My life right there.
Well, I thought it was incredible, and I showed this earlier, but what you don't see maybe in my little square is all the dog ears that I have in there. And so right now I feel like maybe Kelly and Kendra, you might be judging me a little bit because of, because I may not be doing the correct etiquette. But I think the thing that I liked most about this was, obviously I went straight to the live streaming section. And when I went to the live streaming section, one of the things you talked about very early on was the importance of sound and the importance of audio. And a lot of people think video is mostly about what you see. But Kendra, if you want to take that, or Kelly, whoever wants to jump in on that, talk about your thoughts on the importance of audio for any live streaming.
I think we could both talk about that.
I know, right? Like, well, since my face is so big right now, I'll take the lead, and then Kendra, you can jump in. Sure. I've been live broadcasting since there's been live broadcasting. Like, I used to have a show on Google Hangouts. That's how old I am. And so one thing I learned very quickly, especially as I went into more YouTube, the world of YouTube and producing higher quality video, is that if you have bad sound, people won't stick around. They will forgive a lot. They will forgive bad lighting. They will forgive content that's kind of, it's good content, but maybe needs some editing, as long as you give them the answers. But they will not forgive bad sound. So it took me a lot of time to really hone in on good sound personally. I mean, I've been through Yeti mics. I own probably 6 of those what are those little Go video? Dang it.
GoPro?
No, not the GoPros. They're like
the Rode Wireless.
The Rode Wireless. I don't know why I kept saying Go. Thank you. The Rode Wireless. I own like 3 or 4 of them, and I love them. They're my favorite lapel style. I have probably more lapels than anyone ever needs, and of course now I have the looks like the popular mic of the channel, which is the Shure. This thing is amazing.
We're big fans of the MV7.
Huge fan of this. It's like changed my sound significantly.
Amazing. Kendra, what are your thoughts on audio? Anything to add?
I think Kelly covered a lot of it, but just whether you're live streaming or teaching or in a meeting, if you don't have sound that people can hear, you're cutting off all your communication, because no one wants to be right. You can't hear anything. No one's talking. It's that you're on mute stuff that happens that we've all heard more times than we want. But having audio that can really help you stand out makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and Kendra, you've been involved, especially I would think as an adjunct professor, in a lot of virtual meetings, probably doing webinars, classes that way.
She wrote the chapters on it.
I did write those chapters for that.
So it was a perfect segue. What have you seen as one of those issues in that space, especially with, I don't know, maybe people don't take it seriously? Do you think that's part of the problem?
There's a couple things, and honestly, I just heard a couple people talking about this the other day, and I was like, oh, I've got a book for you. A lot of people use the wrong platform for meetings and events and things. So if you're using a platform where anyone can talk and you're trying to do, whether it's a public meeting or a presentation, and you're using, not to, Zoom's great, but it's not always the right answer, then, there's a lot of different platforms that are going to be much more effective. Somebody was telling me the other day that they were in a meeting and, the CEO kept trying to present and they were trying to listen to the stock updates or whatever it was. And there was somebody's grandma on there who kept too close to the mic, see up their nose. They were talking. So, and actually, you know what it was? It was a graduation. It was a graduation. And so all the family members were there trying to see. And when it came time for their family member to go up, somebody was opening a bag of chips or something, so they're the face that popped on. So it was just the wrong platform at the wrong time, and it can really affect what people are hearing, what people are seeing, and just distractions.
Yeah, I think what Jim and I do, and you guys saw that because you're guests, is we put together a sort of a prep sheet for all of our guests, and not everybody reads it, which is fine. But I think at some point, Jim and I keep wishing that people would kind of figure this out. It's not like it's super difficult, but clean your lens. Make sure that the light is in front of you, not behind you, so you don't look like you're in the witness protection program. Like all of the things. Kelly, what are some of the things that you spent 4 months putting? This was your life for 4 months.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see mostly still?
In terms of live video?
In terms of what people, we'll keep it general. In terms of, we can segue into texting or, something that you spent a lot of time with. What just keeps popping up that you just wish people would just learn already?
So many things. Like we literally, everything in the book. That's why it's in there. Some things that stand out to me though are social media etiquette. Specifically for like group etiquette is horrible. Most people just don't know what they're doing, or they do know what they're doing. I think the biggest issue that I see, and this is an issue across the board, is people just don't think. They don't think about the other person, whether it's that the anonymity of the internet has just made us unsympathetic or empathetic towards other people, and we just don't care. Or, we have to have it our way. Or if it's just, we just forget that, that there's a person on the other end. And that really, it causes a lot of issues, whether it's, I'm going to send a group text, group texting and group messaging are very different. And this is something we address in the book. Group texting, I can't opt out of a group text with 20 people. That's horrible. Please stop doing that. I get them every Mother's Day. Stop it. You can opt out. You have a lot more control on Messenger or what have you in a group text. So just as Kendra said, a lot of times it's deciding on what is the best platform for communicating how you wish to communicate. That's going to give everyone the ability to make it enjoyable or to opt out. So that's one of the things that I find the hardest, is that people just don't seem to care. And, we keep running into people trying to have arguments or bringing up topics that are very taboo in moms groups, or, there's just this idea that we forget that we're in a room with 5 million people and we're just going to say our opinion, and it doesn't go over well. So I think it's just overall, if we could just stop, slow down and think, oh gosh, there's other people here. I'm not just sitting at my own little, computer or on my own little phone. And it's just me. It might be your screen, but there are humans on the other end, and we need to keep the empathy in social media, in digital marketing, in the way we communicate.
I love that.
That was one of my favorite things to address, right? Can it be a text message, a Slack message, a messenger message, an email, a meeting, an in-person meeting? What does it need to be, right? Like, we've all heard of those times that it doesn't need to be a meeting, or it all comes back to knowing whether or not, thinking about the other person and the purpose of your communication.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's like, a lot of times people will basically throw you into a meeting and they're not considerate of your time. Right. And so it's text. Right. And so like, here's something I need help with. And so let me just sort of hijack your day or the next couple of hours. Right. And so I like to be mindful of that, because it happens to me all the freaking time, where people are just like, hey, Chris, I know you're the, whatever, there's something to do with podcasting. It's like, yeah, people pay me to talk about that.
Stop picking my brain.
That's right. Can I pick your brain?
No. I mean, yeah, you can absolutely pick my brain for the $500 an hour that I charge.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
Pick all you want for as long as you want. for
Your
that.
hour.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of folks that are chiming in on Amazon, and thank you all for joining. And as you know, we're talking about this fantastic book, Digital Etiquette for Dummies, and we have two of the authors of that book, Kelly Noble Mirabella and Kendra Losee, here with us. And there's some great comments here about what you guys are saying, and there's some comments here like Dennis D. Scott Smith says, etiquette is not the same for all social media platforms. And I think,
correct.
I think it would be great to kind of like go there. Like, we talk about live streaming, but we're talking about texting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Facebook. Versus Instagram versus, all of these. So they all have their different thing, but somehow people treat them the same. And so what are some etiquette moves on various platforms that are your sort of favorites to talk to people about?
Well, I do remember that we wrote quite a few chapters about social media. So just to be clear, it is digital etiquette, not social media etiquette, but that we do cover quite a bit in social media. But the idea is exactly that. It's that there are different platforms, and every platform, as Kendra and I were both kind of not alluding to, but straight up saying, is that you know the rules, know the communication for that space. And so we do cover things like specifically messaging apps, specifically, the difference between how you engage in a Facebook group versus, say, a Slack channel. So every platform is different. And my advice to people, again, is, understand that there are other people and be empathetic to that, but also understand the platform. Like, take time to understand the community and how it kind of is run, so that you're not the one who's going out and making everyone miserable on those platforms.
And one of the sections that I covered in the initial social media section, what you do on Reddit is going to be different than what you do on Pinterest versus Twitter versus Instagram, and covering a lot of the more, in TikTok, covering all of those social media platforms at a very high level. But the point is that don't just dive in, spend some time learning what the approach is and what works and what doesn't work, and then tackling it, especially if you're in marketing.
So it's okay to be a lurker, right? You don't have to jump right in.
Absolutely. It's recommended.
Yeah, I think we actually talk about that, especially in the live video section. We're like, you guys, it's okay to have lurkers, and it's okay to just show up and watch. Obviously a good viewer will say hi because, we get on and we're like, hey, is anyone there? Can you hear me? Is my sound working? Right. But also, I think those of us who've been around the digital marketing and digital world, I guess you could say, for quite some time, we can tell you that lurking is not a bad thing. There are so many people that you touch with what you do online. If you're a live streamer, there's so many people who learn from you, who watch you. If you post blogs, if you have a podcast, whatever it is that you're creating content or you're engaging in, people are following you. And man, you'll find out years down the road that you impacted someone. You're like, really? I don't even know you. So yeah, true. I mean, lurking is not necessarily bad. Especially when you're first new to that community. Like, spend some time instead of the content creator, spend some time as the consumer, the person who's, taking it in, and see how things work.
That's great advice for sure. Yeah, Kendra, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, something to point out in the book is that it actually combines personal and business.
Yes.
So it's posting and understanding social media as a business and doing marketing and understanding the need for like a crisis management plan or something happens, and all of the service, the terms of service and all of the guidelines for your company, but also as a person. Like, I'm just going in for my personal accounts. Here's what I can handle and here's what I should do. So the two are blended together. So it's not just for business and it's not just for personal. You will find insights on both.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing I love about it is, you don't have to learn all the things all at once. No one can, right? And so if you have interest in a particular platform or a particular form of digital media, you can go right into this book, which we're talking about right now, available in the carousel here on Amazon. And if you're not over here on Amazon, go to dealcasters.live. And you're going to join wonderful people that are in the chat here. Deals with Melody Johnson's here. Jeff C., what is good, my friend? Welcome to the show. Jeff C's a big fan of you two.
We love Jeff.
Clearly. And there's somebody where I can't even like cats something, and there's all kinds of emojis in their name. So this is that would be a great segue there. But like if you wanted to know anything about emojis, you could look it up in the index and go to that page. If you wanted to know, okay, how do I handle something, related to kids and homeschooling, which was another, great section. Being flexible for kids' behavior, things like that. It's a good resource. It's a good, sort of like, you don't have to read it cover to cover and go, I understand everything about digital etiquette. You can just kind of use it as a reference piece. So I love that aspect of it.
I was just looking, by the way, at page 73 is where you can find the etiquette tips for each of the different platforms. It starts in 73.
So Kendra, too, kind of along those lines, too, I have a question for you and Kelly. What do you do? Like, one of the challenges, because we're talking about texting, we're talking about email, but it's like, how do you get that message to your group? Because like some people don't like email, some people don't like text, some people never check their Facebook Messenger, and then they get upset with you because it's like, oh, I didn't know that's where you sent the information.
I think that's part of, and I teach this too, right? It's the same as marketing versus personal. If you have a goal with your communication, whatever that goal is, whether it's to inform, entertain, monitor and track a project, who are you communicating with? And does the information need to go into like a repository in a central place? But, from a personal standpoint, if I'm trying to send flight information to somebody, my mom's going to have a different approach than my boyfriend, who's going to have a different approach than, my grandmother. So it's all going to be like, it depends on who you're talking to and being aware of their situation and how they work. And if you don't know, ask, which is your preferred, and if you're a business person, if you're running a business where you have those norms and as part of your, your company culture, if your company culture is Slack, that's awesome. Use Slack.
Just set that expectation. People. Yeah.
Yep. Don't surprise people with a Facebook message about something that's over here. Don't go to their MySpace account and leave them a message.
Yeah, and Kelly, because you've been heavily involved in chatbot marketing, and I would maybe say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I wouldn't be offended, but bad digital etiquette really caused a lot of changes in the chatbot industry because they were kind of maybe spamming people sometimes.
Well, absolutely. So I think a lot of people, they hear chatbot and they think bots. It is quite different. But I do think that the technologies that we're seeing today with chat automations, specifically, because that's what you asked me about, are actually helping with digital etiquette. And it is something that I address in the messaging section, especially if you're a business, because I find it to be horrible etiquette as a business if you have people who are constantly messaging your Facebook page or your Google business, but you're not responding. Or you're just responding with an automation that says, call us. Well, people are messaging you. I guarantee you that audience does not want to call you. In fact, most people will not pick up the phone and call you. They'll go find someone else. So these chat automations make it so much easier for us to address that, glaring etiquette issue, that faux pas, quite easily and very inexpensively.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to ask about something, Jim. I noticed that both of these ladies have down pat that I think we all can work at. Jim and I do remote production and we do a lot of events, and boy, do we get across the gamut in terms of, people and how not just digital etiquette, but how important is eye contact in a virtual meeting?
In a live?
and in a live, of course, right? But eye contact and maybe some tips, tricks, strategies around that.
Incredibly important. I mean, as Jim mentioned, I used to teach this. This is actually one of the things I taught in my challenge, and it is probably one of the hardest skills to master. I'm teaching my 9-year-old right now how to shoot video, and I have like sticky notes next to the camera. So that's your tip, everyone. Put a sticky note, like those little arrow kind. Now, this is really funny because I use a DSLR. So I'm up here. Hi, guys. But my webcam is down here. So I don't have stickies. I'm pretty good at it. But sometimes I switch because I want to show something and I'll forget that I switched. I'll be looking up when I should be looking at this camera. So it gets confusing. Even the pros get it mixed up, but it makes a big difference. And I'm going to show you why it makes a difference. Because if I'm down here and I'm talking, or I'm looking at myself and I'm talking, I'm, hey guys, yeah, this is a great book. You should, that's a big difference that if I'm looking at you, because you, the audience, you come in, like we are together, we are having this conversation, right? And it's not always easy because especially, and I know you guys can attest to this, when you have comments and you have this going on and this going on, it takes work. But something I've always taught my students when when I used to do all the live challenges was that it's practice makes progress. We never go for perfection because there is no perfection.
Right.
Unless we're talking about someone like Stephanie Liu. But even Stephanie Liu would tell you there is no perfection. So
funny story about that, actually, for a section in the book is that one of the things that we heard a lot about, especially in 2020 when everyone was moving on Zoom, was the like Zoom dysmorphia, right? Where people were seeing their face different because of the camera screen. And I kept putting that mention in the book about you don't want to look at yourself, you want to look at the camera. And the editor kept taking it out and saying that's not a thing people do.
it is a thing.
And so I actually and the editors were great, absolutely fantastic. But I finally did a bunch of research, pulled a bunch of video news articles, local TV news videos, and was like, here's 40 different references about this. Stop taking that out. And then he said he asked around. It seemed to be the female coworker.
That's absolutely not true.
Oh my God.
Right. I didn't go into that, but it was just a funny thing because the editor kept taking it out and I was like, no, keep that in. I'm not going to fight you on a lot of stuff with this one.
Well, and there's teleprompters too, right? So you can use a teleprompter and then basically mirror your Zoom call with that. And so and I think it's more for people that want to feel the energy of the other, not necessarily you want, some people want to look at themselves, make sure that, they don't have something in their teeth or whatever. But when you want to drive a point home and you really want someone to, you want to look directly into the lens, or, there's just, people can't connect with you as much. And I think for a lot of live streamers and some that are here in the chat, it is difficult because you want to interact with people, but you have to look down at your device. And so this is a segue that is something that I consistently see, especially in virtual meetings, listen, when we're in real meetings in a conference room and somebody picks up their phone, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. But when you're in a virtual meeting, guess what? Still a thing, right? So how do you get past that? If you're in a meeting, do you just stick the phone under the table? Do you put it in your purse, in your pocket? Is it what's the secret to not looking at your device during a virtual meeting?
Well, it's also the device. It's the Slack messages. It's all the side conversations that are happening. So I think that it's, making sure people have them put away, but part of that is that people are getting distracted because you're going off topic or the meeting's going too long. So part of it is just making sure as the host or the person leading the meeting that you have everything, that everyone knows the goals, that everything's succinct, that there's no questions about what you're covering in order to make it not an hour-long meeting if you can make it a half hour, but also try and just encourage the limiting of the side conversations. It's never going to happen all the way, but just making sure you're focused and everyone's engaged, and don't invite extra people. If someone doesn't need to be there, they just need to know, keep the meeting number small.
Yeah. And Kendra, going back to, because you touched on this earlier, when we're talking about the meeting format, it seems like a lot of times, even if you want to use Zoom, maybe it should be a Zoom webinar because you don't need everybody on screen. Or maybe you use a product like Ecamm or StreamYard where the people can be in whatever, Facebook, YouTube group, and they can put their comments in there, but you don't need that distraction. Do you think that a lot of people feel well, everybody's got to be able to get their face on camera, and it's really not the case?
It's really not the case, and I say this a lot when I teach. So I'm teaching at universities, and they're working adults typically. And half the time they're coming home, they're tired, they don't want to be on camera. They've been working all day. So it's almost harder to teach to a black screen, right? Than it is people's faces. But that's for me, not them. I'm the one teaching. They're the ones learning. I don't, I had to train myself to be able to teach to a room of black screens because I didn't need them on there unless they had a comment or a question. Is it ideal? Is it fun? Not as fun as being able to see their reactions, but you learn how to do it because
you'll be looking at your camera anyway.
Exactly. I don't pay attention to those students. I'm kidding.
So you've got big fans of your glasses, Kendra, in the Amazon chat. So I don't know if you got those on Amazon, and if you didn't, then don't mention it.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. So KNB on Amazon side chat, not available in the carousel. So there you go. So here's something, and I'm seeing it in the chat right now. Is acronyms. Text talk. And we talked a little bit about know the platform that you're on and how things work. Are you going to be using lots of emojis on LinkedIn on replying to a post and using GR and the number 8 instead of spelling out the word great? Things like that. Kelly, what are some ways for people to understand like the platform that they're in, if they're texting versus, right now chatting on Amazon? There's some I can't even understand what's going on. What does HC stand for? I know what FB and IG stand for, but anyway.
Clubhouse, maybe? No, that's the
House Club. It's a brand new platform just launched today.
So one of the things that we talk a lot about in the book is tone. You can't read tone, right? Like if we all read the same email, some of us, we actually have a good friend, I'm not going to say who it is, but that person knows who they are, who will read an email, the same exact email as us, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they said this, and I am so angry. And we'll be like, yeah, I think you're reading into this. It's totally fine. So tonality is so important. And that is not only the responsibility of the person sending, it is absolutely the responsibility of the person receiving. Wow. So we have to understand that. But why do I bring up tonality when you're talking emojis and shorthand? Because emojis are a way to help with tonality, and they should be used sparingly depending on, like, if you're on LinkedIn or in emails, you don't want to go emoji crazy. Yep. But I personally don't think it's a big deal to throw an emoji in there, in an email or something. Of course, if you're emailing like a boomer CEO, old school dude, maybe hold back on the exclamation points. I'm an exclamation point kind of gal, but yes, know your platform. And I would personally, and I believe I wrote this in the chapters about this, is that when it comes to text talk, you absolutely need to know your audience. You absolutely need to know who you're talking to, and the platform, right? Because there's a lot of people, especially younger generations, who use very shorthand messaging, whereas us old folk, old millennial here, while I understand millennial shorthand, I don't understand, I don't know what the my daughter's generation. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying to me. Can you repeat yourself? Alphas. Oh, the alphas. You think the ones after us, the Zoomers or whatever. I don't know what they're called. But the point is that you need to know your audience and you need to know the platform. And these tools are wonderful. Emojis are wonderful for creating the right tonality, but we also don't want to go overboard. Sometimes it's better. I literally wrote this in the book. Like, there is a section in the book specifically about the texting. And I know, Kendra, you wrote email, so I know that was something you discussed as well, but about how do we balance the shorthand with emojis, with going like chapters of text. We don't want to do that either. So it comes down to the platform and the audience.
What do you think of like the video messaging? Do you think that's like something that's going to continue to grow, where you can do just short video? I mean, I like it from the perspective of, right, I can read the tone a lot better, because I think, it used to be like, maybe still is, right? Like sometimes, like if someone texts you, you don't know the context.
Sure.
Or if you don't get texted back right away, people get upset and they don't always understand. Like maybe you're driving your car and you shouldn't be
Yeah,
texting.
right. So a couple of things. Number one, there's a big difference between SMS, text messaging, and messaging, messenger messaging, these sort of platforms, right? And this is addressed in the book, and we've addressed it a little bit before. For like group text, we don't want to group text on an SMS. Stop doing that, you guys. This is the bane. This is my thing. This is the thorn. But
can
you can have,
tell.
yeah, but, because Mother's Day was it just happened to me. 20 people. But in terms of like video messaging, I personally don't think SMS is a good place for that. Number one, it takes up a lot of data. Number two, it's just not built for it. Now, in the future, I do think that the technology will be there. And then when it is, fantastic. Same with voice. But when it comes to like Messenger, Voxer, what are some other,
Volley.
Marco Polo? Yeah, exactly. Volley. These are platforms that are made for that. So just understanding that there are platforms for it. The other thing to consider is like, I use voice a lot. I'm actually dyslexic. I don't just say that. It annoys me when people say that they're dyslexic and they actually have not been diagnosed, because I've actually done it. But as a dyslexic, it's so much easier for me to talk than text, because it just absolutely is. But I also have to keep in mind that sometimes people are not in a place to listen. Right. So if I'm sending a voice message on Messenger, I have to accept that person might not be able to get back to me right away. It's going to take a lot longer because they could be in a meeting. They could be with a baby that's sleeping. Unfortunately, Messenger doesn't have what is it when they translate? Yeah, transcripts. Whereas something like Voxer, I use Voxer quite a bit because, again, I like to talk. It will transcribe. So, video is awesome. I use video a lot when I'm in situations on social media where people are trying to get hot with me, like heated in a conversation. I can see they're forgetting I'm a human, and I will reply as a human in a video. So I'm like, hey, hi, human here. Here's my point of view. So sometimes it is absolutely the most powerful thing you can do. I think, again, going way back to what Kendra was saying in the beginning was, pick the thing that works for that audience and that platform, and then set that expectation. And don't be afraid to mix and match. Like if it's the way you communicate, people will get used to that. But if you're a business, it's kind of different, right? We have to balance our personal use cases. Just keep in mind the expectation of when we will receive a response, or if we'll ever receive a response, right? If we use video, or if we use text, or if we use voice. Because if we just text, it's often we can get something back much faster, and that's fine. That was a really long answer to that.
No, it's great because I think it segues into. I mean, you're almost answered, but I'll let Kendra speak to this. I feel like with text and Facebook Messenger, a lot of times when someone sends me something, the expectation is that I better get back to them really quickly. Like it's ding dong, I'm at your front door. I know you're home type of deal. And there'll be times where I'm doing a show with Kelly Noel Mirabella and Kendra Losee, and I can't get back to you. I've got texts, right? And so I think one thing that I've done is I purposely haven't answered something because I know it's not an emergency, to kind of like, hey, I'm getting back to you, not apologizing for the length of time I took to get back, because
Never do that.
I am not apologizing for that. This is the first opportunity I've had to answer you, right? What do we do with those expectations that, maybe somebody comes back and they're like, finally, right? I really, when they didn't say I need this information back by such and such, well, maybe a phone call would have been better. Something like that. So I don't know, Kendra, do you want to speak to that as far as expectation on timing on all these different platforms?
Absolutely. And I think once again, it goes back to, I covered this from an email perspective and messenger perspective, both from business and personal, because sometimes an email, you get the emails and they're going to be like quick responses. That's great. Yes, do that. And other times you're like, I need to sit, I need to analyze what you said, I need to respond thoughtfully. And it just is a bigger lift. So you might not do it right that minute. You might wait till you have a little bit more time. And part of that is setting boundaries for yourself, right? Understanding and helping train people that, I'm not going to respond to you after 5 p.m. or I'm not going to do this. And I've had a couple friends who've done that because that's their time for their family, right? Like, I'm not going to respond to you. You'll get it tomorrow. And that's on text as well as all of their communications, because that's where their priorities are. And it makes sense if you can get people to, it's making sure that you are setting those expectations ahead of time, though. But also, if you're the one like sending the text message and they haven't heard back in 2 hours, like, give people a break. Once again, we're all busy. We're all doing something. And unless it is time sensitive, don't worry about it. But if it is time sensitive, once again, like I covered this too, consider your communication platform that you're using. If it's time sensitive, make a phone call, send a text, or put that in the subject line. I need this. I need this ASAP. Just don't make everything time sensitive.
I was going to say that. Don't cry wolf.
Exactly. And some of that, for personal is one thing. Once again, for business, it goes back to the corporate culture as well. Is the corporate culture that you're going to drop everything and respond to a Slack right away? That's not. No one's going to be productive. So
we wrote about that in the book too, by the way.
We did. So it's making sure that you're considering all of those. And honestly, a lot of it comes back to being empathetic. Yeah. If you're reading tone in, don't assume the worst of somebody. Assume that they're busy. Assume that they're, working. Assume that they care. Don't assume that they are just like angry at you and not responding.
Well, and I know for me, and Chris knows, I talk about this all the time. If you call me and I don't have your number in my contacts, if you don't leave a message, I'm not calling you back. Yeah. Because if I did that every time somebody called, I'd never have any time to get anything done.
So I also don't want to talk to people about my solar or my car warranty, right? Like,
stop calling me. I don't even like talking on the phone, so there's that.
D. Scott Smith on Amazon says, back in the old days of pagers in a factory, we added 911 to the message when it was a real emergency and needed a response.
Yep.
I love how everything just kind of is going back to empathy and consideration for who you're speaking to. So I think it just kind of goes back to, like, I'm about to send this thing. How is this going to be received? Do I need to buffer it in some way? What's my expectation of when I hear back? How can I frame this message in such a way? That's a lot of thinking, right? Before you actually send something on a platform that is like firing like crazy.
Sure.
So how does someone that's first, seeing, besides buying this fantastic book, Digital Etiquette for Dummies, we have two of the authors here on our screen right now. Besides doing this and taking the steps that you have here, what's some ways you're in a business and they've got Volley, they've got Slack, there's Facebook, there's tech, there's all kinds of stuff that's flying around. And it's overwhelming for someone. What's some advice maybe that you've got to kind of like clear that mind junk away and say, well, this I have to do this, right? I have to learn this. So buying this is a good first step. But what are some sort of tips, some mental practical strategies maybe for folks that are watching and listening?
Well, I think you just need to make it a habit, right? You said, it's a lot of work to think about it. Yeah, the first couple times. But once you've trained yourself to think empathetically or pause before we respond, it becomes a habit. And then it's just second nature to us. Many of us have been have had our sidekick here next to us since, college. Some of us high school. I'm not that young, but it's become a habit to always be there, always be on, and always respond, and always have a quick and never pause. And I think we're getting to a point where that no longer serves us as a community. Right. And so we need to retrain ourselves to set boundaries, set expectations, and just say, no, I don't need to be on TikTok. No, I don't need another voice app. I don't need to be on Volley. I don't care how many. And this is really big for us marketers, right? Because it's fatigue. I think we all feel it, especially as old marketers. We're all like, I remember when it was just Facebook. It was the good old days. So we just need to create boundaries for ourselves and like step away from everything else. And then once we create those habits and we set those expectations with people, people will learn how to communicate with us. And honestly, once you get to a point where you're like, this is who I am, I'm saying no to things, I am putting boundaries up, even for people who may not know your boundaries, if they to come in, they're like, I don't like that about you. You know, for instance, you cannot call me. I told you already, I'm a business. You cannot call me. I don't like calls. And my schedule is very busy. I have 2 young children. I run 2 memberships. I do a lot. So if you want to talk on the phone with me, it doesn't matter if you're one of my clients. It doesn't matter if you're super VIP. You could be the president. You have to schedule that call. And I've had people say to me, well, that doesn't work for me. And I say, well, that's fine. That's how I do things. Allow me to refer you to someone else, because you'll get to a point where you learn that your mental health and your boundaries far more important. And the older you get, the more it becomes more important, honestly. I mean, it's important at a young age, but I think you learn, you're like, I've been abused long enough.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because you're right. It's like, it is so much. And the whole idea is like, listen, you gotta, at some point you got to cut a cord and say, I'm not doing this. There are things that are more important, whether it's your family, or other things besides volley, or that FOMO of, oh, did you hear about this new thing? You know, Jim's always like, oh, Chris, there's this new thing. It's awesome. I'm like, yeah, have fun with it, Jim. I don't need another one. I don't need, it'll be gone. It'll be gone.
I'm on
6
Clubhouse,
months anyway.
but I'm not.
I am, but I'm not.
I
got on it for a minute and I was like, nah.
It worked well for a couple months and then it didn't.
That's right. Now it's gone.
Yeah, so you guys didn't cover social audio in here, did you? Or is this covered in here?
I'm not sure.
I don't think we touched on podcasting.
That's okay.
No,
it's gone anyway. No.
On page 74 is Clubhouse.
Look up podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Well, they've got to have a second edition at some point. So
sorry, not
let them know. Let our publishers know. Second edition. We need it.
Yes.
Like we're all like, I wrote the book and I still don't know.
You're right. I didn't include Clubhouse on there or social audio for the platforms.
Yeah.
I lied. It's not on page 74.
It's. I guess we need another edition.
There's also a few things that got cut because we just had so much to say. So
we did.
I wrote a whole chapter on business email, and it's available on their website, as well as a couple other chapters that didn't make it because, which is, there's a lot more resources available, but there's just so much to cover.
There is.
That when
digital marketing is like encompassing so much. This is not just social media, right?
Yes.
This is
digital etiquette. Yeah.
Across the board. So lots of
there's
stuff.
There's so many things. There's so many things we do wrong. I always say it's like the book that you should have, but you don't want to be gifted.
Yeah, right. Like I'm like, give this to your boss, and I was like, ooh, maybe not. Like anonymous gift, the white elephant gift. I don't know who bought that book, but everyone needs
I
it.
think you need this.
Yeah, it's like your partner buying you a gym membership.
Exactly.
Thank you, honey.
For the record, if my partner is watching, I would love to have that Peloton bike. Seriously.
Right?
There isn't a sliver of you that wouldn't be like,
no, I've been asking, hinting, dropping like the most obvious hints ever. I was like, oh, look, you can do memberships now, babe. Look at this.
Oh yeah, D. Scott Smith over on Amazon says, like sharing breath mints, an offer or suggestion.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know we should do a whole episode, Kendra, about like how to gift it and like how to make it sound like it was a good gift.
Yes.
Like I just finished this book. It was amazing. You have to read this. You know what? You could borrow it if you want.
I saw this and thought of you.
I even marked a couple pages. I found them very valuable.
Seriously though, I don't think I know everything, but I thought I knew enough to be dangerous about most things. And there was a lot of things that I was like, ooh, you know what? I didn't even think about that. And this This stuff is rolling, right? It's not, the virtual stuff is not going away. Social media is not going away. And the DNA of this entire conversation is empathy and consideration for someone else. And so it doesn't matter if 3 years from now there's, Facebook is replaced by, well, let's be honest, it's not going to be replaced.
I mean, you never know.
That's right.
Yeah, we can hope. But no, I'm sorry. I know Facebook has a dear place in your heart, Kelly, but these are still principles that you can use. And I think this is one of the things when we speak to a number of authors that that write books on social media or write books on digital, and you could tell someone, oh, you got to do this specific thing on Instagram and do this with your stories. Well, guess what? By the time the book's printed, maybe they go away, and that's not something on the platform. But what you have here are principles that are evergreen, that will work on a lot of other platforms that may not be what you're talking about specifically, but do apply there. So I think that's one of the great things I thought about this was that, it can still be a reference point for you. It doesn't have to be something that's like, well, that book over there, that book talks about, doesn't even have Clubhouse in it. Guess what? You can apply these things to social audio as well if you keep in mind the empathy and consideration and how you're doing that. I think that's one of the great things about this book for sure.
It's so funny you say that. One of the things that I love about teaching social media, right? Because I teach it a couple times a year at different universities. Every single time I have to do a full update of the course. It's not just, and every time I'm like, why didn't I just, do astronomy, whether or not, all I have to do is check to see Pluto's planet status and then go on in my day. But every time, and most of it is usually looking up articles, looking up different videos and finding the best that I can find to teach the points that I need them to know, because nothing's evergreen. And to your point, by the time something gets published as a book, you're like, well, that was great, but where's the framework? Where's the details? Where's the hands-on? You have to have that in a near real-time session. So it is that was part of the idea going into this, is what's the evergreen things that people need to know that's going to stand a test of time.
Yes.
The fundamentals.
Whether or not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you guys have definitely done that. I mean, there's stuff in there that will continue to apply for years to come. We talked before the show about what the book really could have been called, but we can't say that right now. But it definitely, you two did a wonderful job. We know, along with Eric, in putting something together that is valuable, that is, and I think is timeless, and that it's going to be, we may call things differently, but even if it was video messages, right? A lot of that email stuff could still apply. Why are you sending the video? Absolutely. How long is it going to be? Am I going to watch a 20-minute video?
Yeah, great point though, right? If you're sending a video message, don't make it 20 minutes.
Oh God,
no. Right.
Don't do it.
Some people do that with YouTube videos, but I digress.
You should hear me go on a YouTube rant, okay? When you've been doing digital marketing as long as I have, you have many things to complain about. I'm like the old lady, and I'm like, when I was a kid on Facebook.
Rant.
I could write a whole book on rants.
We'll have you back when you write that book.
Here's the ideal world we want. Now let's make it happen.
Make it happen.
Yeah, the only thing on YouTube in here is YouTube Live. I see.
Yeah, it's under live streaming. We didn't talk much on recorded video streaming, because I think the digital etiquette is more of the interconnectedness, right? It's as a community, as an online community. It's how are we communicating? Now there is sections in there about comments and also about going viral, which absolutely can be a YouTube thing. It can be a TikTok thing. It could be, there's been many instances of people going viral for the right things and for the wrong things. How do we handle that? How do we handle trolls? All these are applied to whatever social network you have, because trust me, there are trolls everywhere. So there are definitely pieces in here that can address those etiquette things. It just doesn't specifically say on YouTube, this is happening. So
And it's also, to Kelly's point, right? Like you can go viral as an individual or as a business for the right things or the wrong things. So understanding what that takes. I know that I used to run the marketing for a large university in San Diego, and you never know what students were going to post, what faculty were going to post, what anyone in the university is going to post. There's hundreds of people who can say something. And so it was constantly like, what are the guidelines? What are the policies? What do we have in place? Who has access? Understanding what works from what as an employer you can control, you can manage to, and what are those laws around that? Like none of that part is sexy or glamorous when it comes to social media, but as a business, it's really important. And as an individual, it's important to know.
But fun fact, we did pitch to our book editor or to our other author who has the person. What do you call them, Kendra? The guy who gets us deals.
The agent.
Thank you. I'm having the worst mom brain today. I'm like, what is the thing called?
The agent. Act it out.
Yeah, we actually pitched this idea of content marketing, which I think we'll cover more, like not etiquette, but like a Dummies book about content marketing, which I'm sure we would touch on some etiquette stuff as well. So that would probably be more specific to like YouTube and blogs and podcasts.
Right.
So let them know, let them know out there that's a book you're interested in.
Right. When they came to us and were like, okay, we want a book on digital etiquette. It needs to include personal and business. Go create the table of contents. We were like, because your brain just explodes. Like,
so
what
much.
do you know? And then we just sat down.
Rein it in.
Let's get our rants out. What are the things that drive us crazy?
I know. I was going around like, what else bothers you? I'm talking to my husband. I'm talking to like my friends. What else bothers you?
Like I talked to my teacher friends. I'm like, okay, what drives you crazy over here? And then CEO friends, what drives you crazy over here? Like, let's get the gamut of things and then throw it in.
That's great that you did that, because I guess, my assumption, and if I were to sit down and write a book like this, it would be like my own experience. There would be a lot of my own experiences. So like, oh, I screwed up here. I did this wrong. I did this wrong. There's of course, I saw, this being done wrong. And so I can include that. So how many of these things are you two guilty of that you wrote about? There's a non-empathetic question that was not planned right there.
I'd have to read the book again. I don't know. I mean, seriously, I don't mean to keep joking about it, but when you've been doing digital marketing for so long, yeah, I've done probably all of them.
Yeah,
but I've learned my lesson the hard way. So don't learn your lesson the hard way. Read the book and learn from our mistakes, our friends' mistakes, things we've experienced on the other side of. I mean, for me, I can remember times where I have taken things out of context in an email, or I can be very short in emails. And there have been situations where I'm too abrupt to some people and they're like, oh, you're so mean, and people are like, just throw in an emoji, it doesn't seem so. I was like, life experience. So yeah, I mean, obviously there were some hard lessons learned before having to get to the point where we wrote this book.
Right.
Well, Kelly, I know you taught me a lesson too when it came to live stream a couple of years ago. It's like, don't sit there and send all these people invites to your live show through private messaging, right? It's just, it can almost get to be spammy.
So annoying.
And even though they're your friend, it's like, think about, like, do you want them doing that to you all the time? Are you going to actually go watch the show? If you've got good content, they're going to watch it. They're going to watch on replay. They're going to watch when they're available. And I remember, I think you were on a show with Julie Riley on StreamYard, and we were talking about how sometimes people will just start tagging people right during a live show.
Oh, Lord, y'all be killing me. Yeah, no, it really comes down to the golden rule, right? How do you want to be treated? We are so inundated with content right now that it's overwhelming. So when you do stuff like that, where you're like, hey, I'm live today. I'm live right now. I'm live right now. And you're constantly sending messages when people didn't specifically say, hey, I want to know when you're live, right? Then what we're doing is creating noise. And when we create noise, they're going to ignore everything we send them.
Yep.
So, Jim, you would never do this to me because obviously I taught you right. But let's say you're sending me a message on, the DM on Messenger all the time about this. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to be having a get together down in San Diego to drink beer. I've missed that message message. That's an important message. So yeah, you don't want to create more noise for people. And this is just like content marketing 101. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Content Marketing 101. We're going to take a sidebar. You absolutely need to stop making just noise. Like, bring some value, bring it worthwhile. The people, this is kind of like the Field of Dreams. But you do have to still market yourself, get it out there, but do it in an appropriate way that you're not annoying people.
Mm-hmm.
On that line, one of the things that used to drive me crazy, especially working at a university, is if you think everything's important to somebody, nothing's going to be important.
That's right.
So if you send a really long email or do that 20-minute video or put it in that voicemail you left that's 10 minutes long, no one's gonna pay any attention. You are gonna get overlooked, because after a while, it has been that you thought everything was important to this person and not paying attention to your target audience or who you're talking to, and not just telling them the key points. Can you tell them a bottom line person? Like, what's the bottom line?
Yeah.
But
Bottom
if you send me
Get to the point.
exactly, and I've even taken, like, to Kelly's point too, I've taken years of writing classes. I'm like halfway through an MFA in creative writing that I will never finish, because I always wanted to be a writer. I never ever thought that this would be the first book I wrote, but I'm glad it is. But it's one of those things where, like, if everything's important. When we first did this outline, and once again, chapters got cut because some of the things were more important than others. You have to prioritize your content and understand that if you have that message that you need, or that that ask you have, get to it. Don't spend 3 pages of emails asking, trying to lead up to it or providing all the context.
Amazing. I love it. Guys, we could talk for another 3 hours, but that would be not very empathetic and considerate to humanity.
Maybe humanity needs that. I don't need it, but humanity needs it.
Or they can order the book and read it.
Oh,
and
wait,
come back
that's the
for
Cliff Notes right
another-
there.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes.
There you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, car buying public of Amazon, thank you for hanging out. Make sure you go down, click that carousel, pick up Digital Etiquette for Dummies. They're not calling you a dummy. It's just that's the brand, right? Yeah. So, like, so anyway, chock full of great stuff that you can use now to get yourself caught up on all things digital. But also, what I love about it is the evergreen factor of it being a reference point for digital media that's to come. So, sure. Kelly and Kendra, we'll just roll it to you. If you could just let everybody know the best place for them to throw you into a group chat. That would be awesome.
We don't want any part of that group chat. You can find me at modamarketing.com, or that's the best place, or Moda Marketing at any of the social media channels.
Yes. The best place for me is on Instagram. Actually, I spend a lot more time than necessary on there. I am at Stellar247 everywhere. That's STELLAR 247. And if you go to a social network with the, Stellar247 and I'm not there, it's because I just don't find value in it. And I've learned to create boundaries.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Jim Fuse, great job. Any parting words before we tell everybody Amazon's out of stock on the book?
Does that happen? No.
No, better not.
No, just thank you both, Kendra and Kelly, for joining us. It was a thrill to have you join us. And when your next book comes back, hopefully you guys will come back and spend some more time with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And as always, don't fear the gear.